Honorable Speaker, honorable members of this August Assembly, I'm not sure how to express my feelings of my appearance before you today, but it's certainly not a privilege or an honor under these circumstances. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that this August Assembly approve and extend for a period of 90 days, effective 3rd April 2020, the state of public emergency in the whole of the Gambia, declared by His Excellency President Ababucarr on Friday, 26th, from Friday 27 March 2020, pursuant to Section 34(1)(a) of the 1997 Constitution of the Republic of the Gambia. Madam Speaker, you will recall that on 18 March 2020, in response to the global threat of the coronavirus pandemic as declared by the WHO, and to which the Gambia is vulnerable, His Excellency the President, pursuant to Section 34(1)(b) of the 1997 Constitution, declared by proclamation published in the Gazette that a situation exists in the Gambia which, if it is allowed to continue, may lead to a state of public emergency. At this point in time, only one case of infection of the virus was reported in the country, and 141 other countries had reported varying degrees of infections. As at this date, the virus had killed 7,807 people globally, according to the WHO. Madam Speaker, following the first proclamation by the President on 18 March 2020, the situation dramatically changed in the country and around the world in the ensuing week, with reports of 3 cases of infection and 1 death as a result of the viral infection in the Gambia. Again, according to the WHO, the number of countries affected by the pandemic increased to 171, and the number of people killed also increased to 20,834 within this 1-week period. In response to this increased threat of the virus to the country, His Excellency the President, on 26 March 2020, and acting under Section 34(1)(b) of the 1997 Constitution, issued a second proclamation declaring that a state of public emergency exists in the whole of the Gambia. This was duly communicated to the Speaker of the National Assembly with a request for the National Assembly to extend the President's declaration of a state of public emergency pursuant to Section 34, subsection 2 of the Constitution, which states as follows: a declaration made under this section shall lapse at the expiration of a period of 7 days, or if the National Assembly is not in session, 21 days, beginning on the day on which the proclamation is published in the Gazette, unless before the expiration of that period it has been approved by a resolution of the National Assembly, supported by the votes of not less than 2/3 of all the members thereof. Madam Speaker, these are extraordinary times that call for extraordinary measures. Coronavirus, otherwise known as COVID-19, is menacing, dangerous, and deadly, and there is no cure. Not yet, anyway. So the survival of the human race, and our small country in particular, is at stake. As a government, we are entrusted with the responsibility to lead our collective efforts to fight this pandemic in any way we can and with every tool at our disposal. We will therefore need the collaboration of every Gambian in this collective national effort. Every facet of Gambian life will be adversely affected, but so is every facet of life elsewhere around the world. This is now a matter of survival first and not about individual preferences. And so, in order to enable the government to provide effective leadership in this national preventive effort, the government must be given a margin of appreciation in deciding the causes it wishes to embark upon, the duration, and the timing. These are key tools that should be put at the disposal of the government so that it can fully and effectively assume its leadership responsibilities to prevent a looming catastrophe in this period of global crisis. A 90-day extension of the period of the state of public emergency will allow the government to do just that, with proper planning and organization for the implementation of the immediate, medium, and long-term preventive and precautionary measures, not only to save lives, but to also balance the competing political, social, and economic interests expected in such times of national and global crisis. Madam Speaker, the government must be allowed to do all that it can to prevent the death of even a single Gambian, because it will be one life too many, especially if we can prevent it by our collective actions. Given the size of our country and population and our geographic location, we're extremely vulnerable as a country, and our already overburdened health infrastructure will simply collapse under the weight of more COVID-19 cases in the country. When it peaks, as predicted by health experts, it will not only kill people, but there is a high chance that it will also decimate our frontline health workers. We simply cannot afford this to happen. So let us be remembered as the generation that did all that it could to save Gambian lives during this pandemic, which will always be remembered in world history. Let us start by extending the state of public emergency declared by His Excellency the President for 90 days pursuant to Section 34, subsection 2 of the 1997 Constitution of the Gambia. For these reasons, Madam Speaker, honorable members, I move that this August Assembly approve and extend for 90 days, effective 3rd April 2020, the period of the state of public emergency in the whole of the Gambia, declared by His Excellency the President on 26 March 2020, pursuant to Section 34(1)(a) of the Constitution. Madam Speaker, in the same vein, during a period of public emergency, Section 3 of the Emergency Powers Act, Cap 1704, Volume 4 of the Laws of the Gambia, empower His Excellency the President to issue such emergency regulations as appear to him to be necessary for the public interest. Accordingly, since the declaration of the first proclamation on the 18th March 2020, the President has issued the following 4 regulations. 1. Essential Commodities Emergency Powers Regulation 2020. 2. Restrictions on Open Markets and Shopping Areas Emergency Powers Regulations 2020. 3. Closures and restrictions on non-essential public places Emergency Powers Regulations 2020, and 4, Restrictions on Public Transportation Emergency Powers Regulations 2020. In accordance with Section 5, Subsection 2 of the Emergency Powers Act, for these regulations to continue to have effect during a period when an emergency proclamation is in force, they must be affirmed by a resolution of the National Assembly. In the light of the above, Honorable Speaker, honorable members, I also move that this August Assembly affirm the public emergency regulations made pursuant to the proclamation of a state of public emergency by His Excellency the President. Madam Speaker, honorable members, I thank you all for your attention.
Section 53C, if I'm permitted.
Can you say
Understanding Orders 53C, the motion for the adjournment of the debate. Has he put the question on? May I go ahead, Honorable Speaker? Honorable Speaker, not only a motion for the adjournment of the debate, but also to refer this motion to the committee that we have established to deal with human rights and constitutional matters. Honorable Speaker, we are dealing with an urgency, as the Minister has rightly said. An urgency that should not permit us to rely on technicality for its sake. But, Honorable Speaker, this institution is an oversight institution. It is meant to control excesses of power. And we should not begin to lose that control of oversight. Otherwise, we are done for. We are told that we are existing under a state of emergency. Honorable Speaker, the Minister told us that the President made a declaration on the 18th of March, a proclamation of a state of emergency. I don't need to go back to the Constitution. The Minister knows the Constitution better than all of us by virtue of his profession and his experience, which he has displayed, all the way to a Myanmar issue. So essentially, we are not questioning the competence of the Minister. But we must begin to be guided by the very instrument that legitimizes our presence here. From 18th March.
Honorable, I just want to follow your argument.
Yes.
And also the relevant...
Yes, well then it's better to quote Honorable Speaker.
No, can I just land, please?
Yes.
Yes, thank you very much. As I said, I want to follow your line of argument. You are referring to the standing orders. Am I right? Clause 53. You can have
3C.
53C.
Yes.
And that deals with a motion for the adjournment of a debate.
Yes.
So that is what you're dealing with.
Indeed. I'm giving the reasons why we should adjourn this debate and the motion to refer the motion to the Committee on Human Rights and Constitutional Matters. That is the object of my motion. And the grounds for doing that, maybe let me speak less and go to the point so that we will not lose sight of what I intend to put across. The first point, Honorable Speaker, can be found at page 2 of the Minister's motion, where it states in the first paragraph that you will recall that on 18th of March 2020, the President did make a declaration of a state of emergency which was published in the Gazette. Honorable Speaker, under Section 34 of the Constitution, we are told that the President has powers under Section 34(1) to make a declaration of public emergency. Subsection 2 states very clearly that a declaration made under this section shall lapse at the expiration of a period of 7 days. That is, if the National Assembly is in session, and we are in session. Count from 18 days, taking the Interpretation Act, what it means for those 7 days to expire. And that's why we should refer this to the committee to look at all the elements to see whether the law was complied with. That is the purpose of the motion. I'm not judging, I'm not preempting anything, but what is strange is that on the page 1, we are being told that the President has declared another state of emergency dated 3rd April 2020, which we are now to consider to extend to a period of 90 days. So I see two proclamations. It is either that the second proclamation is trying to remedy what was done initially. I don't know how neatly it has been done, but I want our committee to look at this so that we look at the legality. Because there must have been a period where we did not have a state of emergency, when something is null and void, but something was being implemented. That is what, Honorable Speaker, we need to look into. And if that has happened, then a recurrence must be prevented. Honorable Speaker, we are in session. There is no need to go to the 21 days. It would have been important for the President to consult this National Assembly, not now, but before the expiration of the 7 days that was initially declared. That would have been more appropriate. Honorable Speaker, in doing so, emergency powers are based on an act, and there is an Emergency Powers Act enacted since 1965, which provides, of course, for proclamation or regulations to be made in order to effect controls over our rights. Our rights are being controlled, and those controls must be dictated by law. And the Honorable Minister knows very well that whatever regulations are published in the Gazette must be reasonably justifiable in a democratic society. And that is what we need to gauge. Are these regulations reasonable and justifiable in a democratic society? That's our duty. And therefore, to extend would require real scrutiny of what is put before us, so that ultimately we said, yes, we are in it together. We are in it together to fight COVID-19, but we are not in it together to restrict the rights of our people beyond what is reasonable and justifiable in a democratic society. So in that respect, Honorable Speaker, I make the motion that we commit this motion to the committee, because under Standing Order 97, we can commit motions, and motions that are remitted to the committees may be looked into by the committees and then report back to us. And we can make it a speedy matter that we want the committee to report tomorrow, and ensuring that the regulations are actually published in the Gazette. If a regulation is not published in the Gazette, it's no law. and people implementing something and going and hearing something on the air, the president has said something, that is a decree. That is not law. What is proclaimed by over the air, wherever, is not law unless it is published in the Gazette. So, Honorable Speaker, we would want publication that our committee will further go and look at what is published in the Gazette and ensure that all of us get copies that we can review so that we know that what we are being asked to do to fight this fight are reasonable propositions that are justifiable in a democratic society. I so move, Honorable Speaker.
Even it is Gazette. I'm not Gazette. What do you tell us? What?
No, you are the presiding officer, Honorable Speaker. That's why I'm taking leave of that. You are the presiding
I'm
officer.
not usurping any right. I just said, please, a secunda simpliciter.
Honorable
Please,
Speaker.
can we just...
Yeah, but, Honorable Speaker.
Motion is a simple motion.
No, I understand. It's a simple
Yeah, it's
motion.
just to adjourn the debate.
Yeah.
It's a simple motion.
You
see, please, can we have an order, please? Please, no. Can you just second the motion or I give the floor to somebody else?
No, I can. In fact, that's why I'm standing.
Okay,
I'm on my
good.
feet. Actually,
See,
I want to do that.
You
That's
have
why I'm on my
seconded the motion.
feet. Not yet.
Okay,
I
then-
want to...
Mr. Speaker,
Can I take Jimara? No,
Exactly,
Jimara
yeah.
then.
Thank you very much,
Sorry.
Ma. I
Yes.
rise to second the motion.
I have a counter motion.
Motion.
Thank you, honorable members.
We have a counter motion, yeah. Exactly.
Yes, if any honorable member wishes to counter the motion, just don't vote. It's a simple procedure. But as I said, all I want to draw the attention of honorable members is that we are not in usual times. The situation is very unusual, and we have all heard what the Honorable Attorney General has said in his statement tabling the motion. Let us avert all of us, our minds, what has happened or what is actually happening and the gravity of the situation. And the motion is asking for an adjournment of the debate. Oh, no, sorry, Honorable, I'm not in any dialogue, please. Let's just get this clear. Adjournment of the debate, but also bear in mind the fact that tomorrow is the deadline. If the motion is carried, the committee and the ABC for the other ones will have to reconvene immediately. Immediately, and we'll come back tomorrow. Immediately and continue the debate. I mean, I'm not imposing anything, but I'm just drawing the attention of honorable members to this. Any honorable member who wishes to counter can just vote no, and it will be simple procedure, and we'll come back tomorrow.
No, we will not count.
Honorable Speaker.
Now we I'm
Observation.
Honorable Speaker.
I am not taking
Point of
any
order.
more intervention, please.
Don't.
Madam Speaker, by a matter of procedure, which we have always been singing here, when there is a motion, we should go ahead to decide on the motion instead of a counter motion be entertained. I think this is the norm. You have
What?
been
No.
nurturing here, Madam Speaker.
I agree with you, but what I said was very clear. Anybody who opposes the motion can vote against it. It's simple. If you oppose the motion, vote against it, and we proceed. It's a very simple
Madam, we
procedure.
are not necessarily opposing the motion.
Honorable, let's lower our please let tempers go down a little bit. We are all after proper procedure. Now we all know there is a motion on the floor. Anybody who does not agree with the motion can vote against it. And
Madam
that will amount to
Speaker.
a counter motion. But before we vote, Honorable AG intends to just make one or two clarifications and then we'll vote on the motion.
No, that's not procedure.
Madam Speaker.
That is my ruling, please. That's my ruling. Leonard, it's not to answer any question. Just
Honorable Speaker, I believe the whole point why we are all here is to help one another take the best decision for our country. And that means listening. It does no harm to listen to what I have to say if it helps you in your decision. It does no harm. And all I wish, these are extraordinary times, and the Speaker does have the power to call upon me to intervene by the Constitution. And all I'm trying to do here is to clarify some of the issues raised by the Honorable Member for Serekunda so that it may assist you in deciding on his motion. The first point that I wish to make, Honorable Speaker, is that the proclamations have been gazetted. And all we need to do is reach out to the Gambia Printing House. Maybe we should have made this available to you. But they have been gazetted. That's the first statement of fact I want to establish.
Observation, Madam Speaker. Observation.
I hear where's the evidence. This is the Attorney General of the country speaking. If you don't take my word for what it is, then it's okay. But I have the proclamations here in my docket. That's gazetted. That's the first item I wish to establish. The second item I wish to establish is that if you look at section 34, subsection 6 of the Constitution, it tells you, and I read, any provision of this section that a declaration shall lapse or cease to be enforced at any particular time shall be without prejudice to the making of a further declaration under this section, whether before or after that time. The President had made a declaration on the 18th, and he made a further declaration on the 26th. Now, I understand the Honorable Member for Serekunda's concerns that between the period of the first declaration and the second declaration, there might have been a gap. And whether any measures were taken to enforce the regulations issued in between that gap. Now, this is a matter of interpretation now. And that is not, with all due respect to the Honorable Member for Serekunda, the province of the National Assembly. That is the responsibility of our courts. And if I may just add.
Point of order. Point of order, Honorable Speaker.
under what section?
Honorable Speaker, I made a motion.
Sorry, Honorable, before you come, please.
Honorable Speaker, I mean.
Sorry, I know. Honorable, can you just allow me? Please, Honorable members, can we just allow everybody who is on his or her feet to finish and we all hear what is being said? But if somebody is on the floor and then we start, heckles here and there, no, I'm trying to help you. So please, we will not get to the point. So we need to listen and appreciate what is being said. Otherwise, we'll all be just jumping up and down and will not make any headway. So please, I am appealing for all of us. Let's calm down, just remain calm, and we'll get there eventually. Please, thank you.
Honorable Speaker, the Minister rose to make an observation, and I was not in any way asked to allow that process to take place at the time that I was making the motion. And you've given the minister a privilege now, and I believe, Honorable Speaker, it's just fair that we are entertaining what is not proper. And the minister should realize that from that foundation where she is speaking now, what he is saying now is in fact improper. But we are allowing him to hear because we understand the urgency. And Honorable Speaker, the minister should be properly guided just to deal with the issues. And I still, if you will allow me, so that since we are trying to engage in dialogue to know what is best, then I will be able to respond, if you will allow me.
For what is best. And if by virtue of clarification and explanation we'll arrive at the best, then I think we should all go in for it. Thank you. It's not that I'm giving anybody any leeway more than the other. No. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I also thank the Honorable Member, Sir Kunda, for his indulgence. Finally, Madam Speaker, Honorable Members, I wish to draw your attention to Section 35 of the Constitution. I know the Honorable Member for Sir Kunda West makes reference to measures that are necessary. Sir Kunda makes reference to measures that are necessary and justifiable in a democratic society. That is the test, indeed, of checking whether a fundamental human right was violated or not. It's part of the test. In ordinary times, if you look at Section 35, if I may quote, an act of the National Assembly may authorize the taking during any period of emergency of measures that are reasonably justifiable for dealing with the situation that exists in the Gambia. Reasonably justifying for dealing with the situation that exists in the Gambia. Subsection 2 goes on. Nothing contained in or done under the authority of such an act shall be held to be inconsistent with or in contravention of Section 19, 23, 24. These are the fundamental rights sections on liberty and privacy. Or 25 of this Constitution, to the extent that it is reasonably justifiable in the circumstances arising or existing during a period of public emergency for the purpose of dealing with the situation. The reasonableness and the justifiability is linked with the period of public emergency. The reasonableness and the justifiability is inextricably linked to the period of public emergency. So what may be reasonable and justifiable in periods that are not under public emergency may not necessarily be the same on the period of public emergency. That is the difference here about the test of necessity and justifiability. That is all I wanted to clarify, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Are you withdrawing your motion?
No, Honorable Speaker. We are helping each other, as he said, and he has a legal mind.
And that was exactly what I said.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
All of us.
Honorable Speaker, the Honorable Attorney General should go back to Section 34 and then look at 3. It's saying that a declaration made under subsection 1 may at any time be revoked by the President by proclamation which shall be published in the Gazette. So we are simply asking our committee to look at this period which he accepts is a lacuna. But he is telling us that we are supposed to be the one who will go somewhere else to interpret what happened within that period. We are told 7 days. And the Interpretation Act is very clear on counting of days. We are not doing that now. We are not claiming to be professional. We are saying that our committee should do that. Invite subject matter specialists to look into that matter. And why are we saying this, Honorable Speaker? Because the way the Attorney General interprets that part in terms of 6, it means that the President can declare for 7 days, it lapses, to come and declare again 7 days, it lapses, to come and declare 7 days to eternity. Then what is the relevance of a National Assembly? The relevance of the National Assembly is, even if we are not sitting within 21 days, it lapses. Then we'll sit, and a government that respects the rule of law and the National Assembly will then see the need to come to the National Assembly to carry it on board. So, Honorable Speaker, the spirit is accepted. And that's why they're here, showing that this National Assembly is respected. Where we differ is that if within 7 days there is a lapse at the end of the 7th day, rather than that declaration, that proclamation being made again, here we are as a National Assembly before the lapse of the 7 days, knowing that the National Assembly is sitting to bring the matter before us. That's all I am saying. So in that means we will be in it together, not somebody declaring and coming again and again, and what happens in between when we have powers by resolution to extend. So what this executive, Honorable Speaker, should always bear in mind is whether we are sitting or we are not sitting. When we are sitting, let it come before the period lapses. That is what is efficiency and effectiveness. We don't want anybody to come and legitimize a conduct which really reflects inefficiency and ineffectiveness. And we are told that the proclamations are gazetted. Fine, the proclamation is gazetted. But what about the regulations? I do not want to go into that. We have another agency that has been going to the printing department to try to get copies. Because in my Honorable Speaker, we are National Assembly members. Our National Assembly constituencies have been asking us, are these regulations there? So we went to search for this regulation from printing so that we can tell the shopkeeper, this is what the regulation is saying. Be careful with this. And we could not get copies of the Gazette. I don't want to go into that. We are not engaged here in polemics. We are all acting in good faith. We are not engaged in a blame game. We want the right thing to be done in the right way, at the right time.
Thank you very much. Honorable Member and Honorable Members, there is a motion on the floor, and I think the proper thing is for a vote to be taken on it, bearing in mind that the 7-day period will lapse tomorrow. And as I said, we have to consider that, consider the clarifications that the Honorable Attorney General has made, and also the issues that have been raised